Hey, this is Owen. If you're comfortable, leave your first name and state at the sound of the tiny truck backing up.
Hi, Owen. This is Master Jeep. I just wanted to let you know that, well, really, I had a question. Have you heard about anybody committing because Trump didn't make the presidency? Because I actually just found out recently that a guy that I work with, he was a true extremist. Every time he saw me, he had something to say about Trump. And since I'm a black female, he always threw in Obama in there for some odd reason. But anyway, I just found out recently that he committed the day after January 6th because of Trump. He left a note. And he was a good man, and I think it's really sad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that is really sad. I agree. I wish that we could find some way to pull these people out of the deep, dark hole they found themselves in. Just the deep extremism that they have dug themselves into, or that others have dug them into. In my opinion, human life is the most valuable, precious thing in the universe. Nothing more valuable than human life. And I hate to hear that somebody lost their life. I wish that we could help them find their way out of extremism. You know, this should be a good object lesson. Nobody should be so invested in any one person that they're willing to do that if things don't go the way they think they're supposed to go for that one person. That's the kind of thing you generally only see with religious movements. People getting so deeply emotional over somebody or something like that that they're willing to go to those lengths. It's the kind of thing you only see in religion for the most part. It's really, truly, deeply sad that religions and politicians are manipulating people to the degree that they are, knowing that this is going to be the end result for some number of those people. Really sad stuff, man. Nobody should get that involved in anything. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's an exception for like a family member. If a family, you can love a family member that much, I guess, and that's okay. But loving a political leader that much, that's not healthy, dude. That's not healthy at all.
Hey, Owen, this is Jeff from just outside Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been following you for a long time.
I'd be willing to bet that they said just outside of Las Vegas because if they tell anybody which town they're actually from, they're like, where's that? Never heard of that. So to simplify things, they just say just outside Las Vegas. It's like if you tell somebody you're from Mesa, Arizona, they have no idea what you're talking about or where that is. But if you say just outside Phoenix, it makes sense. Kind of funny. Sorry for the diversion. Let's keep listening.
Just outside Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been following you for a long time. You're actually the main reason I study cults nowadays. And I was kind of curious what your thoughts on in the Jehovah's Bible, the verse John 1:1, where it says the word was a God, implying that they are polytheistic. And given your background in the Jehovah's Witnesses, I was just kind of curious on that when they say that they're monotheistic. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's an interesting question. The book of John was written hundreds of years after Jesus' death. They were not contemporaries by any stretch of the imagination. The original gospel writers did not believe that Jesus was God. They did not believe in the Trinity. They didn't believe... They were monotheistic. But the person who wrote John, which, by the way, was not John, the person who wrote it was one of a line of people, a new line, basically, at the time, that they were starting to believe in the Trinity, basically, at that time. It was the beginnings of it. So they kind of wrote that in there to lightly imply that it was like a not necessarily monotheistic, or they wrote it to imply that Jesus was God, basically. Like I said, not reflected by the other gospel writers, from my understanding. Nobody who was actually a contemporary with Jesus actually believed that, including Jesus himself. He did not believe that either. So, the Trinity is fake. It was fake then, it's fake now. When you really sit down and try to make sense of it, it's impossible. And it was definitely a minority of people who believed that Jesus was a God. So, anyway, that's my understanding of it. If you want to read more about it, there's more information. Bart Ehrman has talked about this He's a Bible scholar, incredibly knowledgeable on this subject, really knows what he's talking about. He's talked about the Trinity and whether or not it has any kind of biblical basis. It doesn't. Just look him up on YouTube. It's pretty interesting.
Hey Owen, this is Quentin from Indiana, and I wanted to just let you know that it's even worse than you thought with the Kent Hovind series being shown to just homeschooled kids. They were also being shown in private schools because they showed them in our science classes, and they watched that instead of actual factual videos in I think it was 6th or 7th grade, so set out for a great life. Anyway, just wanted to tell you about the experience is actually worse than you thought. Have a good one.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've actually heard a lot about that lately. A lot of people have been telling me, like, they saw it in this circumstance or that circumstance. Like, Kent Hovind's seminar series, if you haven't seen it, it's on my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I've been uploading my debunks of it there. Absolutely unhinged stuff. Like, the guy just straight up lies about things. He just makes things up completely. He'll be talking about, for example, some old explorer and talking about how he claimed to have found a dinosaur and all this stuff. No, he didn't. He never claimed to find a dinosaur. Kent Hovind literally just makes this up. Like, there's no basis for any of this. He just makes things up completely and claims it's a fact. It just blows my mind how brazen he is. And I know, yeah, kids are watching this stuff, even today. Not just in homeschool environments, not just in church environments, but in private schools. And I've heard some people tell me, also in their youth groups, I've heard some people tell me that their public school teacher was encouraging people to watch this stuff too. You know, this is how many years ago, who knows, but absolutely disturbing stuff, man. Kent Hovind is in no stretch of the imagination a scholar and should not be respected by science or anybody else, basically.
Hey, Owen. This is Mark from Oregon. I guess I kind of just wanted to know your opinion about why you think different religions, specifically Abrahamic and specifically right-wing Christian groups, tend to target LGBTQ people. Not that you asked, but in my opinion, as a queer person, I think it probably has something to do with the ability to control people, and queer identity somehow interfere with that. But I guess I want to know your take on it, since you've had a lot more time to research this stuff than I have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's an interesting question. Generally speaking, as people get more controlling, or as groups get more controlling, they tend to other people. They want to separate you from everybody else. They want to put you into a new category of good and others into a category of bad. They'll pick off as many people as possible. Jehovah's Witnesses try to other people based on whether or not they're Jehovah's Witnesses. So you've got the worldly people, and you've got God's people. You can see this happening in the U.S. too. You've got all these different groups, all these different demographics, and then at the very top are the white, Christian, cis, straight men. If you don't fall into those categories, then you tend to fall beneath them somewhere in the hierarchy. It's a way of control, and it's a way of making people feel better than others. And those two things, control and superiority, have been in humans since the dawn of time and will probably continue for a long time to come. But we can fight it. We have to continue to fight it and call it out every time we see it. That's how we stay with our Enlightenment roots. It's by calling out the corruption when we see it. Next one's an email. Title is Response to Short Asking for Article. Hello, your video references a study in which people's brains think of themselves when they speak about what God believes. The article is blank. I do request you not say my name on air if you do read this or something. Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah. Last week I talked about an article. I couldn't find it at the time. I did end up finding it. I appreciate you linking that to me. But the article basically says when you scan somebody's brain with like an fMRI, for example, you can see different parts of the brain light up based on who somebody is thinking about. So if you ask them a belief question, like what does God believe about morality? Or what does Jim believe about morality. Does Jim think that being gay is wrong? You can see a certain part of their brain light up, right? And when you ask them, what do you think about being gay? Do you think being gay is wrong? You see a different part of their brain light up. So parts of the brain that light up are different based on whether or not you're talking about what you believe or what another person believes, right? When people are asked, what does God think about being gay, or what does God think about this or that, you would think that the part of the brain associated with what other people believe would light up, right? But that's not the part that lights up. It's the part of the brain associated with what they believe. So ultimately, God's views on moral issues really are just other people's views on moral issues. They aren't looking to the Bible to find God's beliefs or God's feelings on these issues. They're looking in the Bible to find their beliefs in it. That's ultimately the point of the article. I appreciate you finding that for me and letting me know. Next email is from CJ. Title is Recent Cat Kerr Video. Hello, Owen. I've been watching your content since the early days before you showed your face, but this is the first time I've reached out. I really enjoy your content. I've learned a lot from you over the years. Thank you so very much. I watched the recent Cat Kerr video and it got me thinking. I came from a Chinese background, but not mainland China. We have this body of folk beliefs that is asyncretic amalgamation of Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and other folk beliefs. We believe that our ancestors live after death in some kind of underworld. Hell exists, but that's not where most ex-people are. The living descendants make sure they are well taken care of by burning paper effigies of mansions, jewelry, money, cars, etc. And there are ceremonial rituals where living people can leave their bodies to see their ancestors in this afterworld to see if they're doing well. More information here. Interesting. Joss paper. It sounds almost exactly like what Cat Kerr is describing, minus the God part. I'm sure that Cat Kerr has never heard of Chinese ancestral worship, but it's amazing how similar the two narratives are. I wonder if it goes to show how man-made these ideas are, because we're all the same people. We all want that same kind of peace of mind. Anyway, thought you might find this interesting. Keep up the great work, CJ. Yeah, appreciate it. That is really interesting. Chinese religion is particularly interesting to me because didn't they nationally ban religion for a long time? And I think isn't it still banned technically? Isn't it like a nationally atheist country technically? But there are still a lot of religious people who just don't really practice it much or aren't really public about it. From my understanding, this could be wrong, I'm no expert, but I believe that Buddhism is considered to be the most practiced religion in China, but I'm guessing it's probably actually like a mix of all this other stuff. Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and stuff. That's really crazy, right? It does sound really similar to Cat Kerr and her whole belief system, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if she had read about, some of these folk religions, or wouldn't surprise me if she had read about and tried to incorporate some of these ideas into her ideology. She is an odd character, that is for sure. Taiwan and Hong Kong don't really have any bans on religion. Only mainland China bans religion, last I heard. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's pretty interesting.